right.
Yeah. I hope so.
I do too. If they're smart.
All right. So let's start. We're going to have a few comments from each of the women here, and then we're going to have our own little, the five. What do you think about that? Nice conversation? Yeah. We don't need Bob Beckel, do we? No, we don't. All right. So, Sabrina, we were talking earlier about the nature of your work and what matters here when it comes to, look, here's a panel full of women. There's supposed to be some war on women, of course, so we know that the left brings that to us. What is it about gender differences and why we need to have this conversation? What's the difference for us?
Well, look, we need to start thinking and talking seriously to women, and we need to realize that that's not playing gender politics. I think so many conservatives respect that men and women are different. How many of you have kids? I have two girls. I have a son. They are different, right? The girls love their pretty and pink culture. It's not imposed on them. My son will kick anything in a 1-inch radius of him. In normal life, we embrace these differences. But when it comes to the political sphere, it's like we forget all about it. But the way that men and women respond to messages, the way that they think about things, their intrinsic values, they're going to be different. And that's okay. We're equal, but we're different.
All right. We're going to be able to expand. I've got so many questions already in my head. I know a lot of you do as well. And when we think about differences and imagery, Crystal, we go into another framework here because, I mean, there's so many questions we have, but we also know that we've got a focus of needing to take the nation back as a whole. To do that, though, of course, it involves elections. What about women and the vote? We know that in 2010, for a midterm, women voted as a majority for conservatives. They weren't organized to do it. Nobody told them to do it. We did it because we knew it was important. What about this upcoming midterm and women in the vote?
Well, the Republican Party doesn't have a great record with women, as we saw evidence from the last presidential election. Mitt Romney lost by 10 percentage points. And for me, I think it's really an optics problem that the Republican Party has. Why do we continue to allow men to talk about our issues, to talk about child rearing, reproductive rights, what's happening in the home? Why do we have men in our party talking, I would say, in not great terms? That is not helpful when you're talking about rape and spontaneous abortions. I'm not going to revisit the names of these folks. Why can't you see great women on this stage right now. We can talk very well about women's issues because we're moms, we're independent business women, we're running for office. So I think at a basic minimum, it's an optics issue. We have great women in Congress. We need more. We only have 19 women serving in the House of Representatives. We've got great governors. We have like 4 senators. But why won't the Republican Party get it? Let the women put our face out there, for Pete's sake. Otherwise, guys, I got news for you. The demographics of the country are changing. Women are in charge. 4 out of 10 households with kids under the age of 18 are headed by single women. So we have to stop sending the subliminal message that if you're married and you're bearing a lot of kids, you're better than people like me who don't have children. You know why I'm a conservative? Because conservatism empowers me to be whatever kind of woman I want to be. And that's the message we need to be sending.
And that's a great point. And a great transition to the issue of messaging, because for us as women, we're dealing with the dynamic here where it's the conservative ideal is the thing that allows people to live the lives that they want to live, that we choose, that best suit us as individuals. None of us are the same. We're all going to make different kinds of choices, and it's only the conservative ideal that allows that. For you, Kate, when it comes to messaging and optics, the nature of how to confront what Crystal laid out, what do you say?
Well, I think part of the problem is with this war on women meme, a lot of folks are saying, oh, it's run its course, the messaging doesn't work anymore. Okay, that's our head in the sands, folk. It works really well. Just in Virginia this last election cycle, we got kicked by 9 points. Ken Cuccinelli lost by 9 points in Virginia, and he lost solely on the war on women attacks. We have the ideas on our side. We can articulate, in the majority, we articulate the ideas effectively, but there's a vacuum when it comes to women's issues. If women in America think that Republicans and conservatives hate them, they're not going to vote for him. It doesn't matter what they believe on economic policies or frankly anything else. If we are misogynists, which is how we're being portrayed by Hillary Clinton and by the left, they're not going to vote for us. And what we did in Virginia was a huge mistake, and I hope every candidate for 2014 takes note of it. Every time a women's issue was mentioned, an attack, a vicious, baseless attack, you know what our guy did, our candidate for governor did? He said nothing. He did not respond. The message from the consultants was, don't talk about it. For one thing, women don't care. They don't want to hear you talk about it. Don't talk about it. You have to respond when somebody hurls vicious invective at you. You have to say, Violence Against Women Act, prime example. If somebody says, Ken Cuccinelli or whoever it is opposed to the Violence Against Women Act, and then he comes back and starts talking about economic policy, that's just hanging out there. Wait a minute. He doesn't care about women being safe. What we need to do is come back and say, well, actually, I believe in genuine protection against violence to women. I don't believe in payoffs to the trial lawyers, which is what Violence Against Women Act is all about. And this is my proposal for effectively combating violence against women. Let's talk effectively, but don't leave the myth hanging out there.
I think we all know that if you've been around CPAC, it's been at least 50% women. I mean, this has been, you see this audience in the hallways. Young people, have you seen the young people also? Look, the reason there is this attempt to cast Republicans in that way is because they know women matter. Right. They know you will vote for your family and for the economy. They know that you're not going out there thinking, oh, great, we can all smoke pot now. Too bad we're living in the backseat of our car, right? These are very basic things that speak to the future of what it is we're doing. All generations, whether it's about health care or the economy or anything else. And when it's interesting, because now we go to you, Marilinda, the nature of not only that men are running, but perhaps not even being advised by women. Right. But here you have, and we talk about the number of women in office, but you have an interesting story about, look, you're a young woman, you're a minority woman, and you ran, you've won, you're running again. How did that work for you?
Sure. As a college student, I had my Republican values firmly intact. I believed in personal responsibility, individual liberty, freedom, opportunity, that our country's exceptional, all of those good things that I think resonate.
All right, President, 2016. We got her right here.
And my basic civic responsibility in my mind was to vote and then help elect candidates, get involved in campaigns for those who represent my values. So when I graduated from college, I thought, let me get involved in a midterm election. Who needs help? So my takeaway and what I try to do now is point out that someone at that point suggested to me, wait a minute, instead of helping on someone's campaign, why don't you run? And the thought had never crossed my mind before. And there's a lot of data, from the private sector to the public sector, that women, on average, are less likely than men to ask for a raise, to ask for a promotion and run for office. Men apparently are born thinking, I should be president.
That's right.
And women are busy doing whatever, all the important things they do, and,
sure.
and then, again, follow into because they're passionate about an issue or whatever the case
sure.
may be. So my story is, I ran, then through that, of course, I had the tools necessary, as so many, women and conservative women do. Mm-hmm. And I was able to apply those to policy and be effective in my community. So I'm now in my 4th term. I've been very involved now for going on 8 years.
Excellent.
And at this point, thank you. And what I found was that working on the reforms I've been able to actually achieve and continue to work on in my state, my federal representative is frankly part of what is a very adversarial federal government that we're all familiar with. So I thought, you know what, now's the time to try to stop the obstacles from my state's development from being mandated down from Washington. So I decided to run for Congress against my first term liberal congresswoman. So
excellent.
That's what I'm doing now.
That's the midterm coming up. Now, thank you for all of that. We have, I think you've got a general sense here that these are women that you're familiar with. You can relate to them. This is not unusual. There's powerful women everywhere. The 2010 election really was while the Tea Party was important in that, women were leading Tea Party, but more than that, it was that messaging from women to the rest of the country and to the rest of the women. Sabrina, let's open it up at this point now for a conversation, but let me put this out there. We know what the problem is, right, you guys? We know that there's some weird attempt by people that they think that these things can be controlled by polls, or somebody has a strategy, or there's some genius out there, the Einstein of politics, who's going to explain how to speak to women. But isn't it about that inherently we understand what those messages are? Sabrina, is that part of what your belief is?
I think yes and no. I think that if you look at what's going on the left, we are out-researched, outnumbered, and outspent by groups like Emily's List, the American Association of University Women, the National Women's Law Center, Women's Voices, Women Vote. I mean, the list goes on and on. And the amount of resources they have, we are like a little pill bug compared to the big gorilla. Emily's List, to put it into perspective, raised $52 million in 2012, and they have invested not only resources, but over a decade of serious social science research into how to reach women. Now, I don't think you need to necessarily go to those lengths. I think, like you said, there's a lot that we can just guess at, right? But we're not really in the position to guess anymore. I think we are at a point where we need to figure out what actually moves women. I can tell you from research that the Independent Women's Forum has done on the debt research, on the Paycheck Fairness Act, and the war on women, on Obamacare, men and women don't respond the same. They might want the same thing. Let me tell you about the debt research we did. When you talk to women about preserving Social Security, that's what gets them to want to cut back on spending, because they want that security.
And isn't that's where we go as women, though, and for any of you to chime in here, that isn't it about that we already know about the economy? We've been handling the pocketbook. We know about safety for our families because it's our children who go to war. We worry about whether or not they're warm, whether or not there's enough money. You look at the paychecks now, or your bank account. Your health insurance has gone up. Will you be able to pay the rent? Isn't this what women already know?
Yeah, they do, Tammy, but I think it goes back to what Kate said. We are not, I think back to the 2012 presidential election when President Obama was recruiting female celebrities. He was presenting the life of Julia and the life of government dependency as the panacea, the golden apple that all women want. And what did we do? Mitt Romney and all his surrogates, they were silent. What I would have done is, you have, again, a stage full of bright women. We're all doing different things. We could say, do you really want to be dependent upon government? And to your point, Tammy, the economic policies of individual empowerment work whether you're a woman, whether you're a minority, whether you're a gay person or a straight person.
That's right.
We are just not fundamentally talking about pushing back on government dependency and these messaging, and I would say that there is money there. The Koch brothers, you know, I understand we do need to do research, and I agree with what Sabrina was saying, but you know, the Koch brothers, I think, are putting out what, $30 million in the midterm elections. So there's money there, but they're not utilizing the talents and assets that we have now. And one poll, to kind of wrap this up, there was a poll recently that found 55% of Americans think the GOP does not understand women. And when you poll women alone, all women, regardless of party affiliation, it goes to like 60% of women in America think that we don't understand women. And I'm going to say something that's going to probably upset people, but you know, hey, I try to just put it out there. Part of it is basic optics. How did we start this conference? With one gender representing the movement of the Conservative Party. That's how we kicked off this conference on Thursday. So what I think we need to do, we shouldn't have all the women stacked up on one day. I think it's great that we have women, but we need to mix it up a little bit, because until people start seeing women and minorities see themselves reflected in the face of the party, it's like marketing. We're not going to win presidential elections.